time we got betrayed so fast, I didn't even have my heart broken. Living confused, about to lose hope. Cops got me on the side of the road, like a sideshow. We need an antidote before I go. Now I said fine, but really bad news was gospel. Running with no cause, trying to find direction. The world got the next. Pick up a bag, leave your hands, that's a red bird from oppression. I like my life was so fly, trying to find an exit. Now look, 10 G's plus a record. Since I was following in the soldier, trying to find a good ship. That's when you in hell, how do you excel? Within the breath of life, I'm deep, you heard tell. Listen well to what I tell. No longer can cause pain. Something that a rebel knows very well. Can't you tell I was sent from the Lord? Got a tongue like a two-edged sword, with a style that they might record. The only thing equal is the curse for the wicked and the righteous reward. Man, mercy on the many don't see. Separated from the tares, now on my prayers, and it's so be a rebel. Take the world by word of mouth. UBK, be the rebel that you heard about. Yeah, and it ain't gonna stop till 100 birds in the house, and I made it bird stop. Yeah, right, you ain't heard about. Without a shadow of a doubt, you just see your legs off. Fuck the break about the sun block and take it off. Can't speak folks, cannot stop. Let me know the fans watch us. Tell the people that they church full of witch doctors. Bullets in prison and stop violence. Meanwhile, you be taken from the rebels in the rock bottom. They leave for violent men, and no one understand things that never truly made sense. Like one crying that you screw the roof for a criminal. No, you ain't innocent, it's fucked up. Throw my boots shot. But the sweet spot the blaze on their heads for the tough love. The young, the niggas just love. And when they touch a white bitch with OJ's black blood, Father, forgive me for my error. I'm forever by your side. Niggas first shit, I'm on my flaws. This the reason I'm alive. Thank God for this truth. For a long time, you rebels without a thought.
Young man. First time I'm making money in your honor, man, in 3807.
Without
my little daughter was dropping truth on me and all that. Man, you know, you do your time, you taking them out, training that hand-to-hand combat.
I said, oh, it's the reason I'm alive. Thank God for this truth for a long time. Without a cause.
We already did. We're already beaten down. We've been beaten down for 400 years. We already got wounds inside and outside our body. How you gonna hurt us? You cannot threaten us. You cannot frighten us. We live in the most frightening places, in the most frightening conditions. We are immune to fear. We are immune to harm. You see what I'm saying? You have stepped into a cesspool. You're the only one gonna get infected.
Yeah. But I took the oath that I would stand up and blaze the truth on any motherfucker. Yeah. Bury me a priest. Up at night I never sleep. Contemplating how to set my people free. Bury me a priest. Revolutionary movement, got the dance, get us out of these streets, nigga, bury me a priest. You still an honor to my dad's name, and that boy, y'all got to see. Bury me a priest. Give the devil rest in peace, tell my kids that they die on the street. Bury me a priest. So cold-blooded, but the whole study. I'm still with the low study. It feel clean, I got caught up in the whole fight. Cop tried to put me from the nose belly. Now I'm fight back. Shoot up all my niggas in that back. Shooters with them killers in the cat. Catch me on the corner doing hard with them motherfucking bats. Blaze on your bitch ass. Drop the truth for days. You like your cat. Bring it to the table, then we split that. They should put it on to make a head turn their neck flat. Cause never need a priest. Up at night I never sleep. Contemplating how to set my people free. Never need a priest. Revolutionary movement, got the dance, got the high city streets. Never need a priest. You still an honor for my dad's name, and die for you ever got to see. Never need a priest. Give the devil rest in peace, tell my kids that they die on the street. Never need a priest. I'm from the south and New York, and Cardell. Man, a nigga pot name is Cardell. If it ain't this real name, put me on the work on the cartel. Bitch, bitch, you're the snitch. And I hear my brother up, I got the bitch. You sprinkle Fuck love and pie in the summer. We gon' hit, nigga. Yeah, want to be the man on that bitch ass. That green up his hands on that bitch ass. Couple from the band on the bitch ass. The couple niggas saying, don't you cash? This slow is cut up, but I ride in the I-95 thinking about my daughter's eyes on some real shit. My partner caught a case, face the time. What the fuck is going through with niggas' mind on some real shit? Again, got the way while I was crying, but my pride won't let me keep crying. Real shit. Somebody gotta keep shit. Cause somebody gotta make it at these streets. Bury me in grease. Up at night, I had to sleep. Cause I'm playing out there. Bury me in grease. Revolution, I be moving. Got the dance, get a lot of these streets. Nigga, bury me in grease. You still an honor to my dad's name. That's why he ever got to see. Bury me in grease. If the devil rest in peace, tell my kids didn't die on the street. Bury me in grease.
Shalom, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah Barakatham to all the brothers, Yahweh Shamar, Alatham Bashem, Yahweh Shah to all the sisters. I'm Precinct Officer Rob Mayum in the ISUPK under Commanding General Yohana. We come out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. And as usual, we always teach the blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians are God's chosen people, and the white man is the devil that this Bible speaks of. You know, the last class that I did, we were talking about slavery. And I brought out the book about how to, the Willie Lynch letters on how to make a slave, just to give everybody an understanding why our people have the mentality that they have today, because we were mentally and psychologically conditioned to believe that, to believe in the ways that we believe in. So this is just a part 2 of that class. I just wanted to go into the Bible a little bit more about, slavery still exists in America today, because a lot of blacks and Hispanics, people in our neighborhoods, they believe that they're free. They believe that slavery doesn't exist today, but slavery is still running strong and rampant in our communities and in America, just like it was before. It's just taken on a different form. Okay, so somebody give me the book of Habakkuk. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 12. Go ahead and read it when you got it.
This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 12. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood.
Okay, woe. Who knows what the word woe means? When we see the word woe in the Bible, what does that mean? Destruction, that's correct. Give that young man a hand. Woe means destruction. Read that from the top again.
Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood.
Woe to him that builds a town with blood. So the Lord is saying destruction to that man, to that nation of people that builds a town with blood. Read.
Establisheth a city by iniquity.
And establishes a city by iniquity. So establishes means to establish. You establish a city by crimes that you've committed against the Lord's people. Okay? So let's look up what the word establish means in the Merriam-Webster dictionary real quick. I just want to get that definition, to establish something. Because the scripture says, woe, destruction to him that buildeth a town with blood. And that's all the white man that's all he's ever done. Every city and town that he conquers, he builds it with blood. He builds it with the blood, the sweat, and the pain, and the hurt, and the oppression of the blacks, Hispanics, and American Indians. Well, God said, woe, destruction to him that buildeth a town with blood, and established a city by iniquity. You got that definition? Read it.
Establish. To order, ordain, or enact a law permanently. To set up a nation, business, etc. To cause, to be, bring about, to set up, to cause, to set up in a business.
Is that the Merriam-Webster dictionary?
On one kind.
Okay. Do you see a part where it says to put someone or something in a position?
To cause to be accepted, to prove demonstrate.
No. To put, okay, let me just read the definition that I have in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It says to put someone or something in a position, role, etc., that will last for a long time. Okay, that's established city with blood. Okay, the white man, he puts our people in a position. He gives us a role that will last for a long time. That role that he put us on, that he put us in, is the role of slavery. Because in any kingdom, you always have to have a ruling class and a serving class. Well, we live in the kingdom of heaven for the white man. This is his kingdom of heaven. And this is the hell that we live in. We're living in hell right now. And he put us in this position so he can build his cities off the blood and the backs off of our people. Okay? Now it also says to establish a town. Read that again.
And establisheth a city by iniquity.
And establish a city by iniquity. Okay? Who knows what iniquity is? Come on. Chicago War. Sin, yeah, iniquity is sin. It's laws. It's crimes against God's laws is what iniquity is. Okay, so he builds a city based on iniquity, crimes against God's laws. Okay, so now what are some of the wicked things and the wickedness that the white man uses to establish these cities? What are some of the crimes that he does against God's chosen people? Come on, Solomon. Take the pays low wages. Give me some more. Taxes. That's a good one right there. What else? Ghettos. You know, there's so many things that the white man does to keep our people oppressed. There's so many things that he does to build these cities with his inequities. You know, abortions. You know, he's killing off our babies. The justice system, homosexuality, you know, holidays, pharmaceutical companies. You know, we got genetically modified foods, drugs in our communities, alcohol. You know, everything that is set up in America to establish cities is centered around making money. And they make their money off the backs of our people. Okay? Let's drop that and give me, you got to, go ahead.
Also regentrification.
That's right, regentrification. Good one. Okay, somebody give me 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10. So like I said, everything that the white man does here in this country, here in America, everything is based on money. When you just look at some of these things that we just talked about, we talked about taxes. You know, the government taxes poor people. You know, a lot of the poor people, every time we make a check, we're paying at least like somewhere around 25% of our money goes directly to the white man for taxes. You know, the justice system, it's built all around making money. It's built all around getting our people enslaved in jails and institutions, and it's based on making money, okay, especially with these traffic tickets. You know, they swarm our neighborhoods with police giving out these stupid traffic tickets. Have you ever been to the courthouse and you've seen how long that traffic ticket line is? That's like the longest line in the courthouse is the traffic ticket line. You know, they give those traffic tickets out because it's based on making money. You know, holidays. Holidays is all about making money. If you look into all these stores, every time the new season ends and another the season ends and a new season comes in, you see anything in the stores dealing with that season that's coming in. Like right now, if you look in the stores, what do you see right now in all the stores? Come on, sis. Take the mic. That's right, Halloween, because that's the next wicked holiday that America is having our people celebrate. And we fall right into it, and we spend all our money on getting Halloween costumes, candies, decorating our houses with ghosts and goblins, you know, taking our kids out on the street, going trick-or-treating. You know, we teach our children not to take candy from strangers. But that's one day it's okay that our kids can take candy from strangers. And so many horrific things have been going on during Halloween. I mean, even when I was a little boy, you know, and that was many, many years ago. You know, they were finding razor blades and apples, and candy had poison in them, and you know, so many wicked things that were going on. But they're still celebrating this wicked holiday because it's all about making money. Okay, the pharmaceutical companies, all these drugs that they have. This is some wickedness. They keep all our people on these drugs, and they're charging all this just to get some aspirins. You got to pay so much money. Okay, any kind of pharmaceutical drug that you need, it's costing money, and they're just making more and more pharmaceutical drugs for our people, you know, so we can just continue to spend our money. We talked about drugs and alcohol. That's like one of the biggest money makers in our community, you know, drugs and alcohol. Come on, wait, hold on. Shadow Rock, you had a point you wanted to make? Oh, you need to check the mic? They can't hear it? Can everybody online hear? If you can hear, just put up a number 1. So see if we're having these technical difficulties here. If you can hear us, put up a 1. Oh, okay. We on, right? Oh, okay. Oh, it's breaking up?
Breaking up like it's doing right now. Look at the pink. Look at the pink. So we're going down. That's your pink. You hear that? Who's ever on the internet that's connected on your phones, turn it off.
Oh, that's what it is. Just give us a moment. Huh? Do I want a preset? Oh, yeah, hold on to that. Yeah. Is it still the same? Are we still breaking up? Okay. All right. So, you know, so all of these iniquities that the white man does against God's chosen people, these are all things set up just for him to make money. You know, we talk about the drugs in the neighborhood. You know, there's a guy out here named Freeway Ricky Ross. He was up in the Oakland area, and he was selling crack cocaine. And this brother was saying that he made like something like $1 million a week or $1 million a day, I think it was, just on selling crack to the neighborhoods. And these are just for drug addicts. So if we got, you know, $1 million coming from the drug addicts in our communities, just from one city of Oakland, $1 million a day coming out of Oakland, you know, that's a lot of money right there. You know, and that's just from the drug addicts. So you can imagine how much spending power the black communities have in the poor neighborhoods if they can afford to be making $1 million, you know, a day selling crack. You know, they put all these liquor stores in our neighborhoods. You know, you go down to L.A., man. L.A., every 5 blocks you're finding another liquor store. Every 5 blocks, and that's not a hesitation. Every 5 blocks, there's a liquor store in Los Angeles. You know, so they're putting up all these things for our people to spend money on them so they can get rich. Okay, everything that is set up in America and established in cities, it's centered around making money. All right, go ahead and give me that precept, Shadrach.
1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil.
So the love of money is the root of all evil. That's what that's another this is another precept that shows us how wicked and how evil our oppressor is, because everything that he does is based around money. So here in this scripture is talking about for the love of money is the root of all evil. Keep reading.
Which while some coveted after.
Some coveted after. What does that mean to covet after? Come on, sis. Yeah, to want. You want something. You're chasing after this because you want it so bad, while some covet it after. A lot of people are chasing after this money. And that's what a lot of blacks and Hispanics are trying to do here in America. They're trying to chase after this money because they want to be just like their oppressor. Okay, keep reading.
They have erred from the faith.
So they have erred from the faith because the scripture teaches us that the root of evil is money. So if we're chasing after this money, trying to establish some type of richness here in America, this goes against the faith, okay? Because the scripture says that we're supposed to be content with what the Lord has given us. We're not supposed to chase after it. If you just have a little cottage in the woods, a one-bedroom cottage, and you got 5 kids living up in there, you're supposed to be content with that, okay? We're not supposed to be chasing after what the white man has, but that's what our people do, okay? Keep reading.
And pierce themselves through with many sorrows.
So by chasing after this money, you pierce yourself through with many sorrows, meaning that you go through all these problems trying to chase after this money. We're always going through problems chasing after this money. Come on. We're still having audio problems. Salakia for the technical difficulties. I think we're straight now.
We're good now.
Salakia for the technical difficulties. Once again, we're the ISUPK, and we're talking about slavery. Sorry that you, I guess the other broadcast stopped, so this is a new broadcast. Okay.
It pinged right back.
Oh, it pinged back then? Okay. Salakia for the technical difficulties. I think we're back on track right now. We were talking about the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay. Let's see. Read that again, Shadrach.
1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10.
Here, get the mic.
For the love of money.
Turn it on.
Salaki. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil.
Okay, so the love of money is the root of all evil. Keep reading.
Which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows.
Okay, so people covet after the love. They have the love of money, and that means that they're chasing after this money. And by chasing after this money, they're having a lot of sorrows chasing after this money. Okay. Now, on January 1st of 1863, they had which was called the Emancipation Proclamation, and this was signed, okay, which was an executive order issued by the President Abraham Lincoln that changed the federal legal status of slaves from slave to free. Okay, this was supposed to have been the law that was signed to stop slavery. Okay, at that time, the cotton slave owners, they controlled the economy of the South, which meant that they also controlled the government and the laws in the South because they controlled all the business that was there. Okay, now that they had no more slaves to work their cotton fields, their cotton businesses were turned upside down, and they lost all their, the slaves were like the biggest commodity at that time. Okay, the fields had been burned, the cotton gins had all been destroyed, all the equipment that was necessary to produce cotton, it didn't exist anymore. Everything was just torn apart and just destroyed. Now that resulted in a loss of their capital for the people who controlled the economy in the South. So they started losing their capital because the cotton industry was the largest industry at that time. So emancipation now turned their whole worlds upside down. They didn't like the fact that slavery was abolished at this time. Now the black people who the white slave masters once owned now were entitled to receive the fruits of their own labor, so they said. And this was a threat on the white Southern economy because they were no longer making this money. And now black folks can come in and they can start, having their own fields and farms and making money. Now, the black man had the ability to look in a white person's face, look him in his eye and demand equal respect. And whites didn't like this because they're so used to treating us like we're some kind of animals and that we're less than a man. And this challenged everything the white man believed in to the core of his soul. He hated the fact that the black man could walk down the street and look him in his eye, and talk shit to him. If he didn't like what he said, he could speak up. He hated this. So at this time, an estimate of 8 million whites lived in poverty, and they never owned any slaves. So not all white people owned slaves. There was like 8 million white people that lived in poverty, and they never owned any slaves. Okay. And about one third of them were illiterate. They couldn't read. So those poor whites are the ones who were seeing blacks moving around freely and doing things to better themselves and their conditions. And they viewed blacks as their competitors at this time because the black people that didn't have nothing, that were poor, now they're starting to have things. Now the poor white people are looking at the poor blacks like they're competitors, and they felt the more the blacks gained, the more that the poor white people would lose. And this intimidated them, and this was a problem. Okay? Give me Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 16. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 1, verse 16. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood.
Okay, so this is what the poor whites were doing at this time. Their feet run to evil and they make haste to shed blood. Making haste means that they don't waste any time. They run towards doing evil and wicked things, and they don't waste any time shedding blood. Okay? And of course, since the white man loves to kill, he doesn't waste any time to shed any blood. Now, these poor whites, they started forming vigilante groups back in this time to start intimidating and attacking blacks. That's what they were doing. So a lot of killings and hangings and murders towards blacks was rampant during this time. Whites didn't hesitate to run to do evil and shed blood of the blacks. Okay. Then on January 31st in 1864, the 13th Amendment was passed in the House of Representatives, which officially ended the institution of slavery and involuntary servitude, except as a punishment of crime. Now that was the loophole right there, except as a punishment of crime. Now during the Reconstruction, the Reconstruction era now began, which was an attempt to create a country that would have a multiracial citizenship. That's what that Reconstruction era, because now black people were free. So now everything they were trying to produce another type of citizenship. Okay. But you still had a tremendous amount of white Southern resistance at this time. They didn't want the black man to have anything because they started to have more than he had. Okay. So during the Reconstruction era, blacks could vote. Blacks were holding seats in political arenas. Blacks were in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. So they were all into politics and government. Blacks were becoming judges and lawmakers. However, the support for blacks was becoming less and less, and the violence towards blacks started increasing because the poor whites didn't have what blacks were having, and they felt so intimidated by them, and they felt like blacks were starting to take over everything. Then after the Reconstruction era, the nature of crime and punishment changed dramatically. The new laws began targeting blacks and effectively criminalizing blacks. Okay, then was established the birth of what's called the Jim Crow laws. Has anybody ever heard of the Jim Crow laws? Can you tell me what the Jim Crow laws is about, Solomon?
It was basically laws they were basically laws designed against black people.
Exactly. So these laws, which not only targeted blacks, but promoted segregation as well. These laws continued and stayed effective. And the segregation laws stayed effective all the way up until the 1960s. So they kept these Jim Crow laws and they kept these segregation laws all the way to 1960s. Okay. There were laws established that made it a crime for blacks to walk close to the railroad track. So if they were walking too close to the railroad track, they would go to jail. It was a crime for blacks to speak loudly in the company of white women. So if there was any white women around and niggas is talking shit, they'd go to jail. It was a crime to sell products of your farm after dark. So a black man couldn't be outside after dark selling his products from his farm. Anything from spitting on the sidewalk, they would get arrested for. Being drunk in public and loitering will result in being arrested and confinement in these prisons. Come on.
Wasn't there something called they had sundown counties?
I don't know. Tell me about that. I don't know about the sun. Oh yeah, a black couldn't even be out. He couldn't be on the street after sundown. Yeah, and that's part of they couldn't sell their goods after sundown. They weren't even supposed to be out on the streets after sundown, or they can get arrested. Give the mic to the sister back here. She's got a comment.
There was also a law where blacks couldn't even laugh in public. They would have to go put their head in a bucket. They had like a big trash can and you'd have to laugh in the bucket.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so they had all kinds of ridiculous laws. You got something? Come on.
Yes, sir. It was also illegal to look upon a white woman.
Yeah, that's right. You couldn't even look at a white woman, because they thought that you were trying to sexually seduce her just by looking at her. They just cherished their white women so much, So there was an over exaggeration of black criminality at that time. That's, this is like an era where they started, the propaganda was a black man was nothing but a criminal. So every they had all these ridiculous little stupid laws to make sure that they could put the black man in behind bars, because the 13th Amendment stated that slavery was over unless it was a criminal punishment that was involved with it. Okay. One of the most infamous set of laws that allowed blacks to be arrested and in prison was the vagrancy laws. A black man had to be able to prove at any given time that he had a job or he had a place the place to live. If he couldn't prove that he had a job, then he would get arrested and put in jail for vagrancy. Okay. Now at this time, blacks, they're being jailed and in prison at an alarming rate. Every time you turn around, a black man is going to jail for the stupidest little thing. And they're spending good time in jail. Like if you're walking down a railroad track and you get arrested, you might be in jail for 2 years just for walking next to a railroad track. But with all these blacks being put in prison at this time, now it makes the rest of America look at blacks like they're criminals. Okay. You got a question? Somebody give me Isaiah 42 and 22.
Isaiah chapter 42, verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled.
Now, this is a people robbed and spoiled. This is talking about blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. These are God's chosen people. We have been robbed and we have been spoiled. Now, spoil isn't meaning like America talks about, oh, I spoil my kids or I spoil my wife. That's not what this spoil is talking about. Spoil here is talking about that they've taken stuff from you. Okay. This is what this spoil is talking about. We've been robbed and they've taken everything that we own. Anything of value that we have was taken from us. So we are a people that have been robbed and spoiled. Read.
They are all of them snared in holes.
They're all snared in holes. Read.
And they are hid in prison houses.
And they're hid in prison houses. This is what's happening to the blacks and Hispanics in modern day today. Okay, there's snares. They're all of them. We are in snares and holes. They're always setting traps for blacks and Hispanics to be arrested for the stupidest little things. They plant drugs in our neighborhoods. They break up our families. They don't give us any jobs. So we're forced to be in these communities doing things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. So society is against the black and Hispanic man. They set up rules for us to fail. Okay. But, we see a lot of people, they want to walk hand in hand with the white man, like he's going to do something to save us out of these conditions that we're in. And these conditions that we're in right now are the conditions that the white man, he's the one that created these conditions that we're in right now. Okay. So keep reading.
They are for a prey.
They are for a prey. We are a prey. Okay. I just watched this documentary about it was about the music, the hip hop industry. And this brother was talking about that, these Jewish people that own the hip hop media, and they own all the record labels, and all the music industry is owned by, the so-called white Jewish man. Okay. They sat this one brother down and they said that they had just invested in a business that could be very profitable, and the music industry had to do its part to make sure that this industry is very profitable. And the industry that they had invested a lot of their money in is the privatized prisons, the prison industrial system. And he said that in order for us to do our part to ensure that our investment makes money, is we have to do our part to make sure that these jails are filled with blacks and Hispanics. And the way that we do this is in our music. We have to start producing music that talks about drugs and violence and killings and murders and these type of things, because, subliminally it gets into people's heads and they believe that, they're gangsters. They believe that they're drug dealers, and then they want to be drug dealers because they glorify this lifestyle. So they do this through rap music. So by doing so, it's like a cause and effect. You put these subliminal messages in a black man's mind, and then before you know it, he's out there robbing and stealing and selling dope and doing crimes and killing people, and he's doing all these things. So this is like another part of their psychological warfare that they've done to our people. Okay, keep reading.
And none delivereth.
And nobody will deliver us out of this because we're looking for our oppressor to get us out of these positions. People say, we're Africans. If we were Africans, how come nobody in the African nations is doing anything to help the poor black communities and the poor Hispanic communities that's over here in America? There's nobody trying to do anything to help us. Where are the Africans at? They don't care anything about the black American today because us black Americans, we're not African. We're Israelites. That's why they don't care about us. They don't care nothing about what we do. They don't care about us going to jail because they're making money off of us as well. They're setting up their businesses in our communities. Okay? Now, why is the white man targeting, why is white America targeting blacks? Okay? If we look back at the 13th Amendment, it says slavery is abolished, which means no more slavery except as punishment for crime. Okay. This gave the white man some wiggle room at this point. Okay. So he's got this wiggle room to extend slavery, but just call it by another name. Now he's calling it, what's he calling it now? He's calling us criminals now and putting us in jail. Okay. Now our oppressor created what was called the convict leasing program. You got something you want to say?
I'll let you got a question.
They call it the convict leasing program right now. Okay. Where the prisons would be, they would lease out prisoners at a ridiculous low rate to white business owners who own industries. Okay. This is what the prison industrial complex is right now. This is privatized prisons. Okay. The prisons would lease out the prisoners for labor. Okay. We look at these things because, I just seen another article the other day about a new form of slavery. It's talking about the firefighters. They got certain private prisons that they put blacks and Hispanics in, and they just train them in those prisons to fight fires. So when there's a fire that breaks out, because there's a lot of fires that break out in California, and they're not small fires. Sometimes these fires go on for weeks at a time. But they have prisons that are set up just to train these prisoners to fight fires. Okay. So when these fires break out, who do you think is out there fighting these fires? These fire stations aren't the ones that are doing this. It's all these prisoners, because just the fire stations that they have in your communities, there's hardly not enough people in those fire stations to fight these big wildfires that we have out here in California. So they're training these blacks and Hispanics in these prisons to fight fires. And there's thousands of prisoners out there every day fighting these wildfires, and they're getting paid peanuts. They're getting paid maybe $1 an hour to go out there and fight those fires. Okay? So, come on.
And you don't even got to be in prison. They got work release.
Yeah, that's right. They even got work release programs that they put blacks and Hispanics to work. Cleaning up the freeways and cleaning up different businesses and, doing all types of free labor, for our oppressor. I'm trying to get this work release program going on over here where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? So I can come and get some of my brothers over here and kick it, and let them do their work release and just come on over here and kick it all day long. Watch some Commanding General Yohana videos and drink some strong. You know what I'm saying? And teach these brothers the word. Come on, Shadrach.
Also, in the county jails in the bottom, when you're there for like a county lid over, that means you're going to have about a year in the county. They have a big giant oven down there that make bread all day long. They also make cookies and pastries. You understand? And we took that bread out there and they shipped it out. They're making money off of us for free.
That's right.
No wages.
Right. That's right. You know, so when they had like industries like the cotton farms, you know, this is like back in those days, they had the convict leasing. Okay. And back in those days, they had industries like cotton farms that they used to lease the convicts to. You know, they had corn farms, lumber mills, steel plants, coal mines, railroad companies, you know, factories. You know, this is just to name a few of them, because they had all kinds of companies that would do convict leasing, and they would lease these convicts to build their railroads, or to work their mines, or to work their farms, or to, you know, to work their lumber yards and their steel mills. They would use the convicts to do all the work. Okay. Now the prisoners, they became they became a new source of profit and revenue for the white business owners. Just like at one time, slaves were a source of profit and revenue for the white slave master. Now the convicts, they're a source of revenue for the white business owners. Now, these white industries, they didn't have to worry about the lack of bodies for labor or labor disputes, because they could work these prisoners like slaves in the worst conditions than when slavery existed. You know, when they had to actually buy these slaves, what they had to do, they had to, you know, they couldn't work them so much that they would kill their slaves. You know, they would have to stop them at some point, because that was their property, and that was the way that they made their money. But with this convict leasing, you can work those slaves literally to death, because once you work that slave to death, they just put him in a pine box and just grab a prisoner, and you just pay the same amount of money for him. So they're not losing anything. Whereas that when they owned slaves, they would actually lose part of their labor force if that slave would die or if that slave would escape. Okay. So with the convict leasing, they could work these black and Hispanics, you know, harder than they just did in regular slavery. Okay. All right. So now, okay, so now what they were doing during that time is they were making sweeps, you know, all over the South to round up as many blacks for any little thing. You know, they started rounding them up for whether it was like they shooting dice, you know, trying to make a little extra money, or maybe they got caught spitting on the sidewalk, or, you know, not moving to the side when a white person passed by. That was a crime. You know, being too mouthy or uppity or fighting or something like that. You know, you name it. When they would find a reason to arrest blacks, they would even trump up charges against a black man and charge him with something that he didn't even do. So we're all familiar with that. We know how the white man always blames everything on the black man and charges him for things that he didn't do. There's so many blacks that are innocent in the prison houses these days. Come on, Mashpat.
It's like they still do it modern day. They do parole and probation sweeps.
Mm-hmm.
Just knock on the door, see who's on parole or probation, and from there, like whatever, if you ain't checked in or whatever, they take you in.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and even, you know, when I go into my Hispanic communities, you know, you see the brothers pushing the shopping carts, selling the corn and the elotes, and you know, they're selling the little ice cream that they sell with the little bell on it. And, you know, they out here trying to make money for their family. They out on the corners selling flowers and oranges. They're out there trying to support their family. But then they have these sweeps. They have the police come through with a big truck, and they go through these neighborhoods, and they confiscate all of their goods. They confiscate their shopping carts that they're selling their corn in, their elotes, their little ice cream little carts that they have, anything, all the flowers at the roses at their truck. They confiscate all of those things, and then they put the Hispanics in the back of a paddy wagon and take them to jail like they're some kind of criminals. All they're trying to do is be out there to try to live the American dream and sell their products so they can bring some food and put some food on their family's table. Okay, so they're doing sweeps today too. Just like they were doing sweeps back then, they're doing the same thing today. You know, they're doing the same thing to our people today. You know, up here in the high desert, man, they got this thing now that they call, they've had this for a long time. It's called sidewalk vendors. And they're supposed to be making it a lot easier for people to get licenses up here in the high desert in the San Bernardino County for people to do sidewalk vending, because a lot of people are coming out of jails and they can't get jobs. So, you know, a lot of people want to, you know, buy products and sell them on the sidewalks. And they were supposed to make this thing easy for people to be able to get licenses to do this. Well, you know, here in the San Bernardino County, specifically up here in the Victorville area, there's only one man that has a sidewalk vending license in the whole city of Victorville. Okay. Nobody else has a sidewalk vending license. And I kind of like wondered why. And I understand why there's only one man in Victorville that has a sidewalk vending license. And that one man in Victorville that has a sidewalk vending license is me. And they made me jump through hoops and pay fees and all kinds of stuff to get this, that the ordinary person would have just said, fuck it, I'm just going to go and take my chances. You know, they're supposed to be making it easy, but they don't, you know. So, okay, so the convict leasing at this time now became a new form of economic development in the South, and an expansion of an expansion of the criminal justice system, because, you know, the jails make money too when they get filled up. Okay, the government pays the jails money. Okay, so during the time up to about the 1900s, 90% of the prison population consisted of black men at that time. Okay, now it was being recorded at an alarming rate that, according to the statistics, blacks are a criminal race and giving them freedom was a mistake. This is what they're saying. Okay, this is what's being recorded at this time. That blacks are being now it was being recorded at an alarming rate that, according to the statistics, blacks are a criminal race and giving them freedom was a mistake. Okay, so the media and the reporters took this information and they ran with it. Okay, and they published, you know, they're publishing these reports. So, you know, the media is very powerful. You know, whatever you put in the media, everybody wants to see and to believe. Okay, so now the thought of blacks being a criminal race is beginning to stick in the minds of all the white people. Now, when white people see blacks, all they think is that they're criminals. You know, and that's some of the things that they're doing here in America today. You know, I remember when Trump made his speech and said, you know, all Mexicans are criminals. You know, we should put them all back over the border because they're nothing but criminals. You know, so this is the media and this is the propaganda that our oppressor puts out in the media to make us seem like we're actually criminals. And that will allow them to arrest us and keep us locked up in these prison houses. Okay. Now, the white man was able to reverse the civil rights that blacks gained during the Reconstruction era, because during that Reconstruction era, remember I said that we were getting political offices and we were, you know, being able to be judges and we were doing things. Now, during this, they started reversing these things. Now there was no more voting rights for blacks. Now the blacks couldn't vote no more. Okay. No more funding for black schools, and racial segregation was mandated by law at this time. Okay. Somebody give me Ezekiel 35:5. Ezekiel chapter 35:5. Now we have to kind of like ask ourselves, why do we, you know, why are they criminalizing us? Why are they, you know, putting on the media that we're just criminals and we're rapists and murderers and thieves and drug dealers and, you know, this is what they're painting the pictures of blacks and Hispanics to be. Okay, and they're doing this through media. All right, Ezekiel 35:5. Somebody got it?
Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred.
Okay, it says thou. Thou is talking about Esau. Thou is talking about our oppressor. Because our oppressor has had a perpetual hatred. What does perpetual mean? Come on, Mashpat.
Everlasting.
That's right. A perpetual hatred is an everlasting hatred. It never ends. Because our oppressor, our enemy, the white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of, he's had an everlasting hatred for us. Read that from the top again.
Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity.
Okay, so because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, the white man has had he's had an everlasting, never-ending hatred. And he has shed the blood of the children of Israel. Who's the children of Israel? The blacks. Who's the children of Israel, young man? Give him the mic. Jaden.
Black, Hispanic, Native Indian.
Say it again.
The Black, Hispanic, Native Indian.
That's right. Give that young man a hand. Our oppressor has shed the blood of the children of Israel, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians by force of the sword in the time of their calamity. What does that mean in the time of their calamity? That they're killing us during the time of our calamity. Come on, Solomon. Give him the mic.
Salakia. In the time of trouble, sir.
In the time of trouble. Give me some more. What kind of trouble? Give it to Mashpat.
Are we already in poverty?
Right. We're in poverty. We're oppressed. We're in captivity still. This is our calamity. Calamity is like when you're in your worst state and your worst condition. Our people are not in good conditions right now. Our people are living in calamity. You might see that there are a few, there's some blacks and Hispanics that's living a good lifestyle, but we're talking about our nation as a whole. We're not just individualizing. We can't just individualize our people. We have to look at our people as a whole, as a nation. When you look at our people, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, you look at the ghettos that they live in. Look at the barrios that they live in. Look at the reservations that we live in. These are the worst and the poorest conditions that you can even imagine for people to live in. Come on, Kagaga War.
Salakia, but how would I describe that for our people when, like, I'd be talking to somebody and they'd be like, yeah, but, it's like a 50-50 thing. But, like, there's half of our people that are rich and living good, but the other half are in poverty still. Like, how does that work if I'm trying to tell them just look at our people as a nation, but they want to,
I got you. Well, that's what they do. They want to justify it by taking the few that do make it. They take a look at the entertainers that are making it. They take a look at the athletes that are making it, that are black and Hispanic. Okay, they're taking a look at these people. Okay, but we have to look at our nation as a whole. All you have to do is tell them to go on down to East LA. Go see how our people are living down in East LA, and then go up into Beverly Hills and see how many of our people that you see living in Beverly Hills. Okay, you still see some of us, but not too many of us. It's predominantly white in Beverly Hills. You see what I'm saying? But go down to East LA, go down to Compton, go down to Watts, go down to Inglewood, go down to South Central. All you see down there is nothing but blacks and Hispanics living in the ghettos and the barrios. That's all you see. You'll see maybe a handful of whites that live up in there, just like you see a handful of us that live in these rich white neighborhoods. So there is no 50-50 here. There is no 50-50. If that's what they want to believe, that's just what they want to believe, but that's not what reality is. Come on, Shadrach.
And also to piggyback on what you're saying, Priest, you know, you see a lot of vendors on the streets in these hoods, in these barrios, ghettos, and reservations, and they're selling things. They're hustling, trying to make it. Mexicans out there selling food, selling fruit. Brothers out there selling clothes and selling things on these holidays or whatever. But anyway, when you go to the white neighborhood, you don't see that. You don't see where's the Edomite vendors, street vendors in particular?
That's
Where
right.
the white vendors at in their neighborhoods? Where's the white vendors in our neighborhoods? Damn near non-existent.
Come on, Mashpat.
All them black people you see that made it in Hollywood and stuff, they all coons.
That's right.
They all sold to the white man for something.
That's right. That's right. Most of them are sellouts.
So I wouldn't call them my people no more.
Damn right.
Okay, so the white man continues this racial segregation between us and racial discrimination day after day, and they do this so they can make blacks and Hispanics understand that they don't have a place in the society other than to be subordinate under the white man. That's what they want us to understand, that we have to submit ourselves to him. So we have to submit ourselves to them, and they want to make us understand this. And that's why they do these things that they do to us in our communities. You know, he wants the black man to understand that he is to stay in his place, and that they are, that they're in an exploitable system of labor for blacks, and to understand that whites are racially superior. That's what they want you to understand. Okay. And if blacks don't fulfill that role and stay in their place, then to hell with them. That's how they feel. They'll just kill us off. If you can't stay in your place, nigga, then we gonna kill you off. The white man will torture you and kill you because he places no value on your life except to serve him. That's all he wants you to do. So with this Black Lives Matter movement that goes on, which is a movement that's led by white people, they don't care about black lives. Black lives don't matter to them. Here all these marches and protesting are going on, and nothing has changed. They had that big protest that went on for the George Floyd murder when the police, stepped on his neck and killed him. And the whole world started protesting against that. And what happened 2 weeks later? Now we're seeing videos almost every day of police stepping on black and Hispanics' necks. Come on, Kagagua.
Also, they just said on the news that 3 cops were found not guilty in the killing of Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So they don't find themselves guilty. And that's in the scripture too. Hey, Shadrach, give me that scripture that talks about that they kill and find themselves not guilty. Now also in the 1900s, white employers would tie to them black employees through various forms of debt. Okay, like with the sharecroppers. So this is how the white man. This is how he ties us together with him. They keep us in debt. Okay. They started this back in the sharecropper days. Okay. They get a man in debt. They keep him in debt, and they never let him work it off to get free from his debt. Now you control the labor of the black man because you're always keeping this man in debt. Think about it. When you finally get a job, one of the first things you want to do is get you a car. You get you a car, you go down and get your car financed, and right before you're about to finish paying this car off, the car breaks down, or it's having motor problems, or your warranty runs out. So what do? You trade it in for a newer model, put some more money down. Now you continuously stay in debt with this man. You got a question?
Oh, no.
Huh?
No, I just said the precept.
Oh, you got, okay, go ahead, read that. Shadrach, you got that precept? Okay, read that precept for me.
Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5. Thus saith the Lord, feed the flock of the slaughter. Salaka, that's verse 4. Salaka, verse 5 is, whose possessors slay them. and hold themselves not guilty.
There you go. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. These 3 white police officers that killed that sister, they slayed her, and nobody found them guilty. And that happens with a lot of our blacks and Hispanics and Native Indians today. They're getting slayed. They're getting killed by the white police officers. Even black police officers are killing them. But when the black police officers, they're all supporting that white racism. Okay? They're all supporting white supremacy. Okay? But they kill our people. They step on our necks. They choke us out. They shoot us in the back. You know, I know Shadow Rock is always bringing out all of our blacks that have been in the news, that have been killed and slain and murdered, you know, and nobody is being held guilty for the crimes that they're committing against God's chosen people. Okay, you can go drop that, man. Okay, so now they want to keep us in debt. Okay, this is another way that they can keep control of us, is they keep us in debt. You know, and black people, we're going to stay in debt because we're trying to have the things that the white man has. We're trying to have a nice car, nice house, nice clothes, nice this, nice that. You know what I'm saying? And then you have all these wicked holidays. You know, you spend all your money. I mean, just take a look at these Christmas holidays. On Christmas, black people go out of their way, Hispanic people too, and Native Indians, they go out of their way to buy Christmas trees and ornaments and gifts for their family and all these toys and presents and everything. And you know what? They won't pay their rent. They won't pay their gas bill, electric bill, and now you just fall in debt. So the following year, after all the money that you done spent, you didn't pay your car note off. Now you're trying to play catch up the rest of the year just to get caught up with getting your bills back on top of paying them, because they keep you in debt with everything that we do. As long as they keep us in debt, they can keep a chokehold on us, because now we have to work. We got to go on their slave jobs. You know, they're not paying us no good money, you know, minimum wage, you know, $20 an hour. How are they going to pay you $20 an hour? Look, I was just driving a truck and they were paying me $20 an hour, and this trucking company is making billions and they're paying their drivers $20 an hour. I mean, I drove trucks for 15 years. I started off driving trucks at $20 an hour 15 years ago. And ended $20 an hour. You know, it's crazy. While they're getting filthy, stinking rich. Come on, Kagagawar.
Also, back on my slave, before this coronavirus, they gave us a Christmas bonus. And this before I became manager, my manager got at least $300 Christmas bonus. And the people that I was at, like me as an employee, kid you not, I got a $5 Christmas bonus.
Wow. Yeah. Right. And he's saying you should be grateful for that because you didn't have to get nothing. You know, come on, Shadow Rock.
Also, with the works for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, man, I got a precept right here.
Come on.
What you was talking about, your job with 20 an hour and all these things that's happening. We had to work to death. This is Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest.
That's right. It's not our rest. You know, you got more on that?
Because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with the sword destruction.
Right. This is not our rest. This isn't the time for us to rest. That's why the men of the ISUPK, we don't rest. We come out on these streets and we do the work of the Lord. This isn't our rest. We're not trying to rest in these conditions that we're in right now. All right. This is when we're supposed to put in more work to serve the Lord than we've ever done. You know, so when I'm talking about how the white man keeps us in debt, you know, using debt to control labor is illegal. But this is what they're doing. But they got so many slick and fancy and crafty ways to get around all of this, you know, and they know how to get past the laws. OK, so using debt to control labor is illegal. However, now it becomes another form of slavery because they're keeping us in debt. Now they're keeping us just like the sharecroppers. You know, they kept them in debt. You know, they always said, you know what? Well, you know what? You didn't make enough crops to sell this quarter, you know, but wait a minute. You need this machine here. Let me give you this machine and charge you such and such amount of dollars. Now you got to work twice as hard just to make a little profit and to pay back the machine that you have. Come on, Shadrach.
Yeah, that's right. You know, they made a movie about the Men of Honor, the first naval, he was a master diver. His dad was a sharecropper.
Yeah.
And even in the movie.
Right. I remember that.
He was saying, I ain't never going to own this land.
Right.
That was in the script.
Did he even own that mule that he had?
I'm not sure.
I don't even think he owned that mule. He was still paying for that.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, they have what's called predatory loaning. Predatory, like a predator.
Predatory
goes
lending.
after the prey with that credit card. And then they tell you, well, you in credit card debt over 1,000, you can get relief. Well, how many people in debt for maybe 8,000 or 7,000?
Right.
You know, they're not talking about that, but you got to be up to 10,000. So that's going to handle their poor.
Right.
You know, it's not going to handle our poor because we barely put 2 nickels together, you know, for some damn credit or whatever.
That's right.
You know, they mostly give you what, $300 credit. That's it.
Right. You know, and then a lot of blacks were, you know, back in those days, they were falsely accused of owing money. You know, because the white slave master would say, you know what, you owe me this. And it's like, wait a minute, I don't owe you for that. Well, yes, you do. So who's the courts going to believe? Are they going to believe that black poor sharecropper? Or are they going to believe that landowner, the white man that owns the land, when he says, well, that sharecropper owes me money? Of course, because the system is designed to destroy us. Okay, so blacks were being falsely accused of owing money. And were being quickly convicted and being put in jail. You know, they were sentenced to fine and held to pay court fees, you know, that they couldn't afford. You know, so you couldn't afford to pay these things, so you had to spend the time in jail to do it. And they couldn't do anything about it. Okay? Now, most of this was going on in the South sometime between the 1910s and 1930s. So thousands of blacks were moving out of the South to the North to escape, you know, these unlawful practices. Now, the North began adopting the slave practices of the South, and segregation continued. Violence by lynchings, disenfranchisement, and overall discrediting and disrespect of black people's basic humanity. This was just like going on during these times, okay? There were all forces put in place to hold the black man down. And that's what happens in America today. Then in the North, they began the chain gang prisons, okay, that were chained together and built the railroads and highways and systems in America. These were the things that were going in. This was continuing slavery, but calling it something different. Okay, they put people in jail and then they put them on the chain gang. These chain gangs, they would build all the roads and the railroads and the infrastructure, you know. And just to, as a note of information, the first white man to ever be convicted for killing a black man since 1877 was in 1921. So from 1877 to 1921, all the blacks that got killed during that area, nobody got convicted until 1921. A white man finally got evicted, you know, a man named John S. Williams. You know, I encourage you to read the history on how much of an animal this man was too. Okay. And he was finally convicted of killing a black man. And there wasn't another white man convicted of killing a black man until 1966. So now you got from 1921 to 1966. All the blacks that got killed and Hispanics and Native Indians that got killed between those times, 1921 to 1966, no white man has ever been convicted of killing a black man. That's ridiculous. You know, every 45 years, one white man gets convicted of killing blacks. That's what it sums up to be. Okay, so within those 45 years, blacks were being burned alive, hate killings, lynchings, you know, racially motivated, senseless killings going on. You know, this, you know, and nobody's getting held accountable for it. So when we read that scripture that says that, they kill our people and nobody's being held accountable for it. This is biblical prophecy that's going on. Okay. Now, let's fast forward to today. Okay. The prison industrial complex. That's today. Okay. Also known as privatized prisons. Actually, that's what they call it today. They don't call it the prison industrial complex. They call it privatized prison. Privatized prisons is the largest growing industry in the United States today. They make more money through privatized prisons. All right. Somebody give me Lamentations. Come on. Somebody give me Lamentations 14 and 17.
When you say privatized prisons, what do you mean? Like the feds?
No, privatized prisons mean that they have private shareholders or private investors that they pool their money together to build prison systems. He probably does own privatized prison. Like you see remember we went out to the Adelanto Detention Center, the ICE Detention Center. That's a privately owned prison. All right, right down the street from there, there's a federal prison that's a private owned prison. This isn't owned by the government. This isn't owned by the state. This is private investors that invest their money to build these prisons. And the way that they make money is to keep these prisons filled, because the more people that they get in those prisons, the more money that they make. Come on. Lamentations 14 and 17. Lamentations. Go to 4 and 17. As for us, is that how it starts? Okay, that's it.
What is it?
Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 17. Salakia.
Lamentations chapter 4 verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
Okay, our eyes have failed we're looking for vain help. Our eyes are looking for our oppressor to be our avenger. We're looking for this white man whose system is designed to destroy us and to break our families up and to keep us in prison and to keep poverty going on in the black neighborhoods and, a system that is designed to take all our businesses away from us and keep us dependent on spending our money with other nations, a system that's designed to just totally keep our people oppressed. We're looking at them to save us. We're looking for them to get us out of these conditions that we're in today. That's our eyes as yet fail for our vain help. That's vain help. We're never going to get any help from this oppressor to get us out of these conditions that we're in today. And the reason why is because the condition that he has put us in is getting him rich. It's all about money, as I stated before. Everything that this oppressor, this white man, this devil that the Bible speaks of does here in America, it's all about oppressing blacks, Hispanics, and Native America and draining us and sucking us out of every damn penny we got. Shadarock, you had a comment? Keep reading, verse 18.
Lamentations chapter 4 verse 18. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our street.
They hunt our steps. Every time we're in the street, they're hunting us down. They're focused on looking at a black and Hispanic man to see what he's doing so he can arrest him for any little thing, and this is like we're concerned about these things. I mean, even though that I'm in the truth today, if I'm driving down in my vehicle and a police turns the corner and he's behind me, I'm looking in my rearview mirror, seeing what he's doing. Even if I pass by and he's parked, I'm like, okay, I'm looking in my side, in my rear. Is he pulling out? Is he going to come after me? Because for any little reason, they're going to find a reason to pull you over, jack you up, fine you, have you in traffic court, shoot and kill you for any little reason. Okay, so we can't even go out on our streets because they hunt our steps. That's why they have so many police officers in the Black and Hispanic communities today. They barely have any police in the rich neighborhoods, the rich white neighborhoods. You don't think crime is going on in the rich white neighborhoods? There's more drugs going on in the white communities than in the Black communities, believe it or not. There's more white people that's addicted to crack cocaine than there is Black people, but they want to patrol our neighborhoods. You know, they want to hunt our steps. So they put twice as many police officers patrolling our streets, and it seems like the crime rate is higher in the poor neighborhoods. But they got just as much crime going on in the white neighborhoods. Okay? Keep reading.
Our end is near.
Our end is near. It's coming to an end. You know, our end is coming. Read.
Our days are fulfilled, for our end is come.
Okay, so first of all, let me say that today I believe it's like 81% of today's prison populations comprise the Blacks and Hispanics. Okay, the prison system is one of today's modern day slaveries. Okay, this is one of I mean, there's so many things that go on in today's world that you can see that I can show you that's slavery here in America. But I'm just bringing up this one little point right here because I think this is probably the largest entity right here that I can show that slavery still exists. I mean, it exists in so many different ways, but just look at this prison system. Okay, the prison system is one of today's modern day slaveries. Over 2 million Blacks and Hispanics are incarcerated in America and work in prison sweatshops as outsourced labor, which is another name for prison labor or convict leasing. Prisoners are providing labor for various industries for as little as 20 cents per day. Some places in these prisons, prison industrial systems, it has been like finding a pot of gold for them. Now they know that we can invest in these prisons. We can get this free labor and we don't have to pay them no workman's comp. We don't need no health benefits. We don't have to pay them no unemployment. No, we don't have to pay taxes for them. So this is like a gold mine to these companies. Okay. They don't have to worry about labor laws, paying unemployment, disability insurance, providing health care for their employees, and knowing that their employees will show up on time and never be late every single day because they're getting these employees out of the prison systems. You know, back then it was called convict leasing, which became illegal. Now they call it private contracting of prisoners. You see how they play on these words? But they're doing the same exact thing because in the 13th Amendment, it says that a man cannot be a slave unless he is being convicted of a crime and he's put in jail. So that's their loophole. That's how they keep us in prison. Okay. So what they do is, you know, a lot of these privatized prisons, they have these sweatshops built right inside the prison. Okay. Let me just read some of the Fortune 500 corporations that participate in this contract of prisoners. Okay. And these are some of the cream of USA's corporate society, these companies here. Okay. Just to name a few of these companies that participate in this is IBM. I mean, you're going to be surprised. Boeing, they do the air. IBM, of course, does computers. You know, Boeing aircraft. They do aircraft parts. Microsoft, AT&T Wireless, Texas Instruments, Dell Computers, Compaq, Hewlett Packard, Nortel, TWA, Nordstrom's, Revlon, Macy's, Pierre Cardin, Target, the Armed Forces. You know, as you can see, there's a wide variety of companies that use prison labor. Come on, Shadrach.
Good. And they're calling these companies are called Fortune 500 companies. These are multi-million-dollar companies. And you know, that just shows you how low they sink for that money.
That's right.
Yeah. That's their God.
That's right. These Fortune 500 companies, these are the largest, most prestigious companies in America today. And this is why they're getting so rich, is because they're utilizing the labor from these prisons, and they're building these prisons with the sweatshops right there in the prison. They don't have to transfer these prisoners anywhere. They're going to build a prison where they make Texas Instruments or Dell or Compaq Computers or Hewlett Packard. They're down there building these motherboards right there in the prison. They wake them up. You got to wake up every morning, and you're there on time every morning. And a lot of prisoners, they don't mind going to work because it kills their time, and it makes their time go by faster when they're doing something when they're locked up in prison. Back in the day, we used to always hear about license plates were made in the prisons. Well, today they got car manufacturers being in these prisons. They're building vehicles in these prisons. They're building furniture in these prisons. They're building computers. They're building cell phones. They're doing all types of technology in these prisons today. They're sewing clothes and garments and making makeup, and they're doing all these things in the prisons today. Okay, these companies that use prison labor also qualify for federal tax breaks, okay, where they get compensated for 40% of the cheap wages that they pay. They get compensated for all these things. So private prisons are traded on the New York stock market. I bet you didn't know that either. Large prison sentences result in greater profits. So when they can put men in prison for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that even makes bigger profits for these prisons, okay? Because now they got this guy that could work in here for 20 years, Private prisons spent about $45 million over the last 10 years to lobby for state and government officials to support them with mandatory minimum sentencing, okay? We heard about that mandatory minimum sentencing. We heard about the 3-strike law. We heard about all these things, immigrant detention centers, 2-strike laws, 3-strike laws. When I've heard of people that had 2 felonies. They had 2 strikes here in California. I've seen people that, they had 2 strikes and they got caught stealing a candy bar out of a 7-Eleven and got arrested and got a 3rd strike for stealing a candy bar. Now they in life for prison. I mean, they're in prison for life for stealing a candy bar, and it was their 3rd strike. These are ridiculous laws, man. But that's what they do. They want to keep us locked up. They keep the Black and Hispanic man locked up, and they take us out of our household. Now that destroys our household. There's a scripture that talks about how do you bind the strong man. Shadrach, you got that? How do you bind the strong man? Or how do you control the strong man? By binding him? Yeah, get that for me. So, they had all these laws and other legislation that supported and contributes to America's large prison populations, or I like to call it the largest slave plantations in America today is these private prisons. These are nothing but slave plantations, I mean, they got prisons that grow orange, that have orange fields and different farming. They got pig plantations. People get up in the morning. I mean, and I know about this because I remember back when I was like 20 years old. I had all these speeding tickets, and I must have had like about maybe 10 or 15 speeding tickets. And finally, the police pulled me over on a speeding ticket, and he said, "Man, you got warrants out for your arrest for not taking care of these tickets." And they took me to jail. They took me to the jail up in Ventura County. I stayed up there in 3 days. I was crying like a little baby. I was like 18 years old. I ain't never been locked up like that before. I'm thinking I'm in there with all these criminals. Then they transferred me over to what they called the Ojai Honor Farm. It was a jail that was on a pig farm. They had me slaughtering pigs and doing all that farm work, but I worked in the slaughterhouse, so that's one of the jobs that I had to do. I wasn't getting paid for that. But I was up there on that honor farm slaughtering them pigs, and they were making money off of them pigs that we were slaughtering up in there. So they got jails and they got prisons that do the same exact thing. You got that, Shadrach? Come on, read that.
Matthew chapter 12 and verse 29. Or else, how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods?
So how do you get into a strong man's house and spoil his goods? A strong man is a black man. A strong man is an Hispanic man, a Native American Indian man. How do you get in his house and spoil his goods? Spoiling his goods means taking everything that he has. How do you get in his house and take a black man's shit? Read.
Except he first bind the strong man.
You have to bind the strong man. That means you go in there and you put them handcuffs on him and you take him out of his home. Is that in on that?
And then he will spoil his house.
Then you can spoil his house. You go in there and you put them handcuffs on him and you take him to jail. Now you can take everything that he has in his home. You take his woman, you take his kids, you take his house, you take everything that he has. That's the only way that you could take the spoils of a strong man. You have to bind him. Come on, Shadrach.
Yeah, and it's also just like what General Hanna be talking about, the movie Claudine. It's also the system, the state. They put it where you kick the man out, and then we'll give you some relief. We'll give you that government cheese. We'll give you that EBT card. But you got to get rid of that man, that strong man.
That's right. Right, and that's just like when the welfare system first came out. That's what that movie Claudine was about. She was on welfare, getting food stamps and getting money from the government. But, they had like a social worker, this white woman that used to come around and check her apartment. Claudine had she had about 8 kids living in a two-bedroom apartment? 6 kids living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And that was something normal back in the 60s for a black woman to have 6, 8, 10, 12 kids. That wasn't nothing unusual. Claudine had 6 kids in a 2-bedroom house or 2-bedroom apartment, and she was on welfare, but the welfare worker used to come and make regular visits, and she would go through her closets, her pantry, and everything to see, is there anything that you have in here that might have been given to you by a man? Or is there any signs of a man living in here? So she had her boyfriend that used to buy her things, and every time the welfare worker came, she had to hide everything under the beds and the closets and the back and inside the washer, wherever. She had to hide all these things so the welfare worker wouldn't see. She got a new toaster. She had to hide the new toaster so the welfare worker couldn't say she had a new toaster because, oh, you got a new toaster? You could spend money on a toaster or a TV? Well, you don't need this money from us then. And they will cut them from that money. Okay, so now they were dependent on the white man and his welfare system, but they couldn't show any signs of any black man living in that house at all. If a black man's appearance was in that house, they would cut them off from that money and that government cheese and that food stamps that they were given to them. That's how wicked the white man is. Okay, now before when I was talking about that they had spent $45 million on laboring, what was I saying before? Private prisons spent about $45 million over the past 10 years to lobby for state and government officials to support them with minority minimum sentencing. Okay, well, the $45 million the private prisons have spent in the last 10 years to lobby is peanuts compared to the billions in profits that they make every year. So if they're just spending, all I got to do is spend 45 million and I can make billions. Well, that's what they're doing. They're spending 45 million on just lobbyists that's promoting and pushing their agenda forward. Okay. And they're making billions every year. Okay. Most prisoners, they want to work rather than staying locked up in the cell all day. It makes their time go by faster by, keeping busy. Okay. You don't have to pay a prisoner to work. But if you do, it's called the grace of the state. So you don't have to pay a prisoner to work, but you can, but it's called the grace of the state. Prisoners are run and operated by prisons. Salakia. Prisons are run and operated by prisoners. Plumbing, electrical work, building expansions, maintenance, cooking, cleaning, all the workshops are all run by prisoners. So the overhead to run a prison is very minimal. They don't go out and hire no contractors to come and fix the clogged toilets or the electrical problems or whatever. They don't hire chefs to come in and cook meals for the prisoners. They don't hire whenever what they want to expand the prison and they want to build another unit to the prison. They don't hire contractors to do this. They use prisoners to do all this work. Okay. So prisons are supposed to be for rehabilitating criminals, not for exploitation of free labor for companies to get rich. Okay. America gives the illusion that the jobs and the skills that are learned by working in these prison shops are rehabilitating convicts by teaching them a skill. So when they are released, they can get jobs and become, successful members and productive members of society. However, the truth is that they want a high recidivism rate. You know what recidivism is? Who knows what the recidivism rate is? Shadrach, you know what a recidivism rate is?
So like, I'm gonna take a little stab at it. I believe it's, what you get in return for what you give out as a business.
No, a recidivism rate is that whoever's released, they're going to come back. That's recidivism. So the rate of recidivism is, they're planning on people that get released from jail come back. That's the recidivism rate. It's very few people that actually stay out of prisons and jail. They're always coming back. So that's the goal of the government, is to have a high recidivism rate. And the system is set up for a convict to fail in society once he gets out. Okay? You got something you want to say?
I was going to piggyback off what you said, how it's an illusion for people to work there, and they say you get your GED. So when you get out and you learn all this stuff in jail, you got these certificates. You're like, oh, you got a felony. Oh, you can't work here. But in jail, they make it seem like this is for when you get out. Get your degree. You go to college in jail. You get this. You get your mechanical thing in jail, whatever it is. But then you can't get a job when you get out. It's all an illusion.
That's right. That's why it's set up to have a high recidivism rate. They want us to fail. Okay. Just like you said, when you get out, you can have you could have been in jail for 10 years and you was an auto mechanic in jail. And you've mastered everything about building an engine and tearing it apart. You're like a master mechanic at this point. When you apply for a job, when you get out, there's one question on that application that every application asks. And that application is, have you ever been convicted of a felony? So most companies will not hire ex-convicts, because if you mark yes, I've been convicted, you're not going to get hired. If you mark no and you do get hired, and then down the road they found out that you lied, they're going to fire you right away. Okay? So when an ex-convict's, when they can't get a job, they'll start reverting back to what they know how to make money, and that's hitting them streets. That's out there hustling. That's out there selling dope. That's out there robbing and doing because that's what they know how to do. Nobody's giving them no job. Now they went to prison. They're supposed to be rehabilitated. They picked up all these skills and got their GED and, learned all these skills in prison. So they're thinking, well, when I get out, I shouldn't have no problem, but nobody wants to hire them. So now they go back to, doing the things that they did, and it lands them right back in jail, because that's the high recidivism rate. Okay. That's what the system is set up for. It's set up for a man to get out and go right back into prison at the same time. So don't be confused. The economic structure for Black men and Hispanic men in America is not freedom, equality, and justice and the American dream. Okay. When the founding fathers of America wrote the Constitution, they had no intentions of including Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians into this land of prosperity. This didn't include us, because a Black man was considered 3/5 of a man. So when it says all men are created equal, they didn't even look at us like we were a full man, a whole man. So we were in slavery when this law came out, that all men will be created equal. And everybody has the right for liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. We were in slavery when this happened. So this didn't include us at all. You know, it was set up to make the white man and every other nation of people to become rich off the backs and the blood and of the blacks and the Hispanics. That's what this whole system is set up about. The economic structure for the black and Hispanic in America is crime, drugs, abortion, breaking up families, oppression, you know, using our women against us and to keep us in prisons. So the blacks and the Hispanics for free labor, you know, using us for free labor to boost the economy, you know, to make white man rich. That's what our financial, you know, that's what our economic structure is in America here today. Our economic structure isn't set up for the black and Hispanic man to be wealthy, to have your own business, to have your own jobs, to have your own corporation, to make your own money, to build your own communities. You know, this society has little investment in education and jobs for blacks and Hispanics, and has a large investment, you know, that funnels massive amounts of money in prison systems today. That's what they do. Okay. Now, the Trump administration in America, immigration control, known as the ICE, known as, you know, we heard of ICE, the immigration control. What's the E stand for? Enforcement, the immigration control and enforcement, ICE. Okay. In the Trump administration in America, immigration control, known as ICE, imprisons 52,000 Hispanics daily. Wait a minute. 52,000 Hispanics daily. American taxpayers spend $8.3 billion a year on these private detention centers. $8.3 million a year they spend on these ICE detention centers. So when you get locked up in these detention centers, the prisons and detention centers make money. Okay, that's how they make their money, because they have to keep these places full. They're making their money, and then they got the outsourced. They got the you know, leasing the convicts out, outsourced leasing. Okay, so America looks up, you know, America locks up as many blacks and Hispanics as they can, so they can make more profits here in America. Like I said before, what makes America go round is the money. Everything that America does, it's all about making money. And we just read the scripture that the money is the root of all evil. Well, the root of the white man is money. That's what makes the white man evil. So the point of all this is that slavery in America is still alive, you know, and thriving bigger than ever. And this is just one aspect that I'm showing you with the prison industrial complex, with the privatized prisons. There's so many other ways that I can prove to you that slavery is still existing here in America. Okay, let me end it with this precept right here. Give me Isaiah 42:6.
Isaiah chapter 42, verse 6. I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness.
The Lord has called us into righteousness. You know who the thee that is talking about? He's talking about the priests and prophets of the ISUPK. The Lord has called us into righteousness. Read.
And will hold thine hand.
The Lord said he will hold our hands. Read.
And will keep thee.
He's going to keep us. You men that come into the ISUPK, the Lord is going to hold our hands and he's going to keep us. Read.
And give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles.
So he's going to make us the light of the Gentiles. And the Gentiles isn't talking about the people from other nations. The Gentiles here is talking about the Israelites that are scattered abroad, that took on the customs and the cultures of these other nations, just like here in America. Blacks and Hispanics and Native American Indians, you are God's chosen people. You are part of the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel, and you were brought over here in America, and you have taken on the customs and the cultures and the traditions of the Gentiles of the white man. So now you consider yourself to be a Gentile. This is the Gentile that it's talking about. We are going to be a light. The men of the ISUPK, we're going to be a light to these blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians that are lost in this world and lost in this society. Keep reading.
Verse 7, to open the blind eyes.
To open the blind eyes. Our people are blind. Our people are asleep. Now is the time more than ever to wake up out of this sleep that we're in. Well, the men of the ISUPK, that's what we're here for. We're here to open up these blind eyes. Read.
To bring out the prisoners from the prison.
That's what we do. We bring out these prisoners from these prisons. We have a prison program of ourselves that we go in and we reach out to these brothers that are in prison today. And we let them know that you God's chosen people and you need to repent and turn back to following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. And we pull these brothers out of prison and we get them on board on serving the Lord today. We get them on board of learning how to be good men, how to be good fathers, how to be good husbands, and how to be men of the Lord and serve the Lord. So we keep them we get them out of these prison houses and we keep them out of these prison houses. Read.
And them that sit in darkness out of the prison house.
And those that sit in darkness that come out of the prison house, when you get out, all you got to do is find a brother in the ISUPK and we'll teach you. We'll be that light. We will show you the right way, how to get out of these conditions that you're in today. We will show you what you need to do to get back on your feet again, to get out of the oppression of the white man, to get his foot off of your neck, to keep that recidivism rate down where you don't have to keep going back and forth in the prison. We're going to show you how to do this. Okay? Right. Let me just give one more scripture here. Let me go to actually there's two of them that I want. Somebody give me Romans 13:11. And somebody else give me Ezekiel 33:11. Romans 13:11 and Ezekiel 33:11. And then we're going to end with these two. Give me Romans 13:11 first.
Romans chapter 13, verse 11. Akim Nakwatim, are we there? And that, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep.
Okay, this is high time to awake out of the sleep. This is time for you to wake out of your sleep. When you're asleep, you're not aware of what's going on. But here, the men of the ISUPK, we're here to wake you up. And this is high time. This is the right time right now to wake up out of your sleep. Stop being asleep. Stop being ignorant on what's going on in this world today. Wake up and understand that you are God's chosen people and you need to repent and come back to the law, statutes, and commandments. This is high time. This is the time right now to wake up out of this sleep that you're in. Read.
For now is our salvation nearer than when we believe.
So now our salvation is even nearer now than when we first believed, because there are more men and women, blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. We're waking up to this truth. We're not asleep anymore. So our salvation is nearer than we thought. Okay? Now drop that and give me Ezekiel 33:11.
Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 11. Say unto them, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh.
So this is the Most High saying this. What does he say? Read.
I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked.
The Lord has no pleasure in killing you, black, Hispanic, and Native American Indian man. All that wicked that you're doing, the Lord is killing you off, but he does not have pleasure in killing you. Read.
But that the wicked turn from his way and live.
So he's saying the wicked should turn from their ways and live. That's what we're trying to be the light of. We're trying to show blacks and Hispanics, you need to turn from your wicked ways. If you want to live in this kingdom, if you want to get this everlasting life that the Lord promised us, you need to turn from your wicked ways. You need to learn. You need to wake up and understand that you are God's chosen people and that you need to stop doing these wicked things that you're doing. Read.
turn ye from your evil ways. For why will ye die, O house of Israel?
So turn from your wicked, evil ways, O house of Israel. Turn from these sinful things that you're doing. Turn from this and let the brothers of the ISUPK be that beacon of light towards you. Let us show you how to become a better man. Let us show you how to stop doing these wicked, abominable things that you're doing. Come to class.
Right. That's right.
And with that, I'm going to turn the class over to Precinct Officer Shadarak. Oh, I'm sorry. Machapat? I'm going to turn the class over to Trooper Machapat.